Welcome to the 17th episode of Sawdust Nation with AJ over at Crafted and NJ and Josh at North Country Woodworking. What is going on, Josh?
Well, first of all, AJ, it's nice to see you again. It's almost been, I don't know, a week?
It has been, and I, for some reason, have double of you on the screen, and it was one too many.
Oh, man, what's going on? Well, if you listened to the last episode and kind of been keeping track a little bit, I have a CNC machine. So,
what?
You didn't listen to the last episode, did you?
What? I don't know if I was here when we recorded or when it came out on Thursday-ish.
That might have been your twin. I don't know. But yeah, I got a new CNC from Xcarve. And I was putting it together. Nick from NPG came over and he's giving me a hand. And
No. Hold on. I just gotta clarify for everybody. Nick put the whole thing together. Josh sent me pictures of Nick putting it together. So I have proof, sir. I have proof. Hopefully they didn't delete.
To be fair, Nick has 3 Xcarves. One he uses, he has 2, and then one he uses for like spare parts. I figured why not bring over someone that has dealt with this piece of machinery on different levels and give me a hand. His insight was invaluable, and it helped speed up the process quite a bit. It also helped that I got together my little bench placement for my CNC. I sent you pictures, but I didn't post anything about it. But so I went out and I started building the frame for my bench. And I already did all the math. I had everything basically computed with, the wheels and the height being I wanted exactly 35 because 35 is where all my benches are. Just makes sense, right? So I go out there, I cut everything to length, I join everything, make everything 4S, even though it's, scrap wood. As I'm doing it, I'm measuring the legs in the frame essentially. And I'm looking at it and the measurement just doesn't look right. It looks too small. So I throw out the plan that I, meticulously put together to ensure it was correct. And I eyed what I thought was going to be the good height. Needless to say, when I made this bench without the wheels, it was about chest height on me without the machine. So call it.
You would have needed a crane to lift up anything and put it on the bed of the CNC.
It was, I don't even know what happened. Like, you got to trust math. Like, that's what it comes down to. Is I did all the math. I knew what I was supposed to do. And when I came to it, I'm like, that doesn't look right. And I tried to eye it. And as soon as I did that, everything else was the dimensions I needed with the legs. Long story short here, I went back, I cut the legs to the appropriate length, the original measurement that I was supposed to do. And put it together, I put some MDF on top. Yeah, I got it done. AJ's taking pictures of his cat. That's how interested he is in the CNC car.
Come on, you don't have to tell him. I mean, she's literally sitting here listening and going like, he should have just done it the right way the first time. And I don't know, he should have just had Nick build him that bench.
Yeah, it should just let him do the whole 9 yards. Yeah. But yeah, I've put shelves under there now. I'm going to put some drawers and stuff for the bits and basically the house of CNC goods, I guess you can call them. And some tool storage. So it's a nice little cart. I definitely didn't realize I can open up that much space in my shop, which happened out of one day of moving things around. So
I do have a question because you put it on wheels. I know, you like to have everything mobile as I do. Do you plan on moving it around, or is it in case I need to move it around situation where if you didn't put wheels on it, you would have had to get it out of your way for something? Did you put those on there just so you had them, or because you might want to move it, like to use it?
Okay, so the wheels I put on there, this entire bench, other than the MDF that I put on there, has been recycled wood from my shop that's been sitting there. That includes the wheels. The wheels are actually from my toolbox that I took them off and I threw under my bench. They're not what you call the best quality wheels. To answer your question, it is essentially for like if I have to move it to get to the dust collection, or if I have to move it to get behind it because, something's going to fall behind it. Essentially for that purpose anyway. It's not meant to be moved around the shop or outside. I don't want to do that, especially with the CNC on it. It is just for those times where I might need to move it away from the wall, get behind it real quick, and call it a day. And it's already come in clutch, especially when we're building the CNC. We're able to get at the sides, the back, and the front.
Mm-hmm.
When he was doing one component or one part of it, I could be doing another component or part.
Okay, makes sense. I wish I put wheels on mine, even though I couldn't wheel it anywhere because it's too big. But your exact point of getting behind it, that would have helped me out tremendous because, I was mounting a monitor behind it at one time. So that was a pain. I did not step on the CNC. I was kind of hovering over it. And if I had the wheels on it, I could have at least moved it out of the way. The main reason I didn't do it was I didn't want it to have that wiggle. So, this bench wiggles enough, even though it's built solid. It has no wheels. It kind of shakes a little bit. So I felt like if I put wheels on it, it was going to shake a little bit more. And I didn't need them. So that's why it didn't even dawn on me to add them because I'm like, when am I ever going to have to get to the back of it? And there have been times. It's a good thing that you did.
Yeah, and in fact, I brought those little feet that basically are able levelers. And I was thinking about it, and I'm like, well, my wheels are 5 inches, so those feet are not going to, they're not going to fit. And it dawned on me, maybe I could put them on the CNC bed itself and level the CNC, much like the X-Car Pro has under theirs. So, but I didn't know if I would end up warping the bed, you know what I'm saying? Because it needs to sit flat. I guess it's a question I could pose to X-Car themselves and see what they thought. And if they said it shouldn't affect the CNC performance, then maybe I could throw them on the actual rails and level it completely flat. Because right now, where it sits, actually pretty much even when I roll it around, the entire bench is dead flat. I use my forefoot and I go across it in all different angles and it's flat. I did well doing that, but you could always do better, I feel. Like, I don't know, having a way to adjust it just in case something does occur, like something under a wheel, like some sawdust or whatever. Yeah, so I built the cart's in work. The CNC is mostly built. I'm waiting on some parts to finish it up, and then I'll be getting to carving. I bought a whole bunch of bits with the actual CNC. Be using those to, do my first couple carves. Now, I realize buying the bits that, the company might sell are not the best bits. Let's just say that right off the bat. Amana Tools, from Tools Today and Bits and Bits. I think, what's the other brand?
Whiteside
Tool or Bits. They probably have better bits. That's what they do. You know what I'm saying? They're selling bits for that purpose. I bought the bits I did so I can start using them and understand what I might need and not need. Because there's nothing worse than buying like $100 bit and realizing you're never going to use it. So I bought the cheaper versions, expecting they might break. And if they do last, great. That way I can kind of learn and see what I'll be using the most.
Yeah, well, it's definitely bits are a big chunk, but once you get when I got my CNC, they told you right off the bat that they're going to send you a 1/4 inch end mill, a downcut end mill, and it was just a no-name brand. But I was like, I don't want to trust it. I want to trust something that a lot of people use. So that's why I went with the Amana bits from Tools Today, and I'm very happy I did. So the bits that X-Carve uses, when we talked to the gentleman over there, I believe he said that they use a specific brand for their X-Carve Pro that, when it comes with the bits. I wonder if they're the same exact bits that the Pro uses. So, I have seen those because they have like colored collars on them, right?
Yes, they do.
I saw in the MillRight forums, on Facebook that a lot of people were talking about those bits. I don't remember the name of the company, and I heard great things about them. So, they might work out and last a really long time. I knew that the bit that was coming with mine was literally a no name, and it just says 1/4 inch downcut, and that's it. There's no name whatsoever. So, but the funniest thing is I never touched that bit because I bought Amana Tools before I even got the CNC. I actually used that downcut bit that came with the CNC on my little trim router, and I have to say it worked out actually really, really well. I mean, it cut great. It didn't bind. It didn't like snap in half the second, I turned the router on. It actually worked out really well. But I didn't want to take that chance because I'm like, I just want to get into carving. I want to learn, and I don't want to have to, break a bit. Now get another one. Now get another one. So that's why I just went, the way of getting the Amana tools right off the bat. But I'm telling you, those bits, I have seen them floating around in the Facebook forums for the MillRight. A lot of people were talking about them because people didn't want to spend the money on Amana tools right on the bat. And this was like a cheaper option, but they were quality bits. So I think you'll have good luck with those.
I really hope so because I got quite a few of them. And besides the CNC and getting that going and ready to go, I did some hardcore 3D printing. Yes, that's right. I said hardcore 3D printing.
Were you playing like a lot of like... what is that, headbanger music? Like, were you just sitting there literally just going like this as the little heads like going back and forth? You're going, yeah!
Yeah, it would have been a long day. It was a 24-hour print. No, was it 26-hour print total. And it was only one piece of a full model. I've showed you the picture, and basically it's a Hulkbuster Iron Man suit. And it's fairly large. I actually had to reduce the size down to 60% because if I kept the original size, it would have took up the bed of my actual 3D printer and took like 3 days to do that one part and probably a couple spools. I didn't want that. I wanted to, still not in the test phase. I'm kind of breaking out of that. I'm hoping with this, I'm actually going to do some primer, try to sell it and see if someone wants to buy it. But it's going to be a fairly large model. I mean, alone, it's already about 4 inches. And that's just the head to the, basically the waist. I still got to print the legs, the base, the arms. My printer worked fairly well. I used the tree-like support structures, that I think it's Kira uses. It turned out good. I was really nervous that I was going to mess up on like the 24th or the 26th hour. But, I'm looking it over and it has great detail. And for the film that I'm using, it turned out great. So that was, holding my breath there for a while. I definitely, was watching the film, watching the model. It was definitely nice to see. Nothing with the laser. Projects wise, a little further with the charcuterie board. I did a template for that. So when I glue the boards together, I can go ahead and put the template on, cut that circle, and basically be, hitting the road with that. It's turning out great. I love the grain on the ash. It's just really great. And we actually had a discussion about ash and grain as well. I didn't know if you want to bring that up.
Well, a couple episodes ago, Josh was talking about, I think you were talking about the cutting boards when Trails had talked about them. Yeah. And we were talking about batching them out, and you were talking about, how you have all that ash. It dawned on me because ash is porous. It's like oak. And I know that they say it's a big no-no for oak to be used for cutting boards because of the pores, the open structure. So I was doing a little bit of research, and my little bit of research consists of me typing in, is ash good for cutting boards? This first answer I see is no. So I just jump to conclusions and send Josh a message and go, hey, I did a lot of research. And I found out I did years and years of study on ash. And I read a little bit deeper, and I was looking at it going, people, of course, maple, cherry, walnut. Those are the 3 big names that you can use for cutting boards. They said to steer clear of ash. And now this was on one particular forum that I was reading. And they were saying stay clear of ash because it's porous. After I sent Josh the message, I then researched it again, and the first thing that came up was ash is great for cutting boards. And I'm going like, one day I look at Google, it says one thing. One day I look at it again, and it says something completely different. But I really read into it again, and, one thing that I did send you was somebody said you can use ash for cutting boards, but if you are cutting meat, it would be a great spot for bacteria to grow because the pores are so, open. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people were saying to use it for just vegetables. That that they won't have that growth of bacteria, and keep it clean, keep it oiled, keep it waxed, and it'll last. It's not the greatest for it, but that's what, this is the stuff that I was reading online, because you can trust everybody online. I mean, I think you can agree that whatever they say online is right.
My favorite reference is Wikipedia.
I just went into WebMD and I said, is ash good for cutting boards? And it said you might want to see a doctor. So it's a hit or miss. Ash is good, ash isn't. If you use it for certain scenarios, then it's good. If you use it for just meats, then of course no, you wouldn't want to use it, because it'd be just like using it for oak or like oak. So in your case, you're doing a charcuterie board, which is pretty much a serving board. You're not going to be chopping raw meat on it. So I mean, I'd say go for it. Coat it in something that's going to protect it, that is resistant to moisture, and go for it. I don't see why it wouldn't be a bad thing. Now, if you said like, hey, they're just going to cut chicken and that's it, and I'm going to do a whole ash cutting board, then I think I'd steer clear. But for your purpose, I think you'll be fine.
Yeah, then that's pretty much where the conversation landed on that. It's because we all use like a Paduke, and we all use Purple Heart, and those are porous woods as well. I mean, for the most part, we do accent pieces out of those. And that's where I kind of question what you were saying about the ash. Just I'm like, well, wait a second. There's other woods that we do, or other woods, other species that we use that have porous qualities about them. And, maybe you could do an accent piece, a stripe or something with ash. But like you said, I would never do a full cutting board with it. Charcuterie board, surfing tray, essentially. They're going to be serving cheeses and, snacks and stuff on that. It's not going to be, they're not going to go get a deer and cut her up and everything on it. So, I think it's a safe way to go about using it as a place in the food industry, I guess you can say. If anyone out there has any more thoughts on that, go ahead and reach out. Let us know what you think. I'd like to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Going back to what's in my shop, that's about it. I made room for my big bench for my CNC, built a CNC, waiting on some parts, and then some 3D printing. A little bit heavier on the woodworking side this week, which was nice. I definitely got to go in there. My little one was out there helping me measure and, put some screws in. So it was a nice activity, especially once I put down the bottom of the bench. We were able to crawl underneath it. we're doing shelving and stuff, and oh man, he ate it right up. So it was fun. It was definitely fun, especially having him out there. Because, when we do client work, it's really hard to have him out there and actually help, because you don't want him, to accidentally mess something up and have to redo it. This was like, oh, okay, well, you put a screw right through the board. Who cares? But yeah, it was definitely a good week doing that. What's going on in your workshop, man?
Well, first I'll touch on as we're talking about CNC, I had a bit, actually, not the bit itself, but I have the Amana Tools RC-1145, which is the 45-degree V-bit with a replaceable knife edge. So I was running a 3-hour carve, and it got all the way to almost the very, very end. And I was actually upstairs. I wasn't watching it. So I heard it kind of just, not carving. I heard the router just hovering. Since it's not a spindle, it's not going to shut down. So I ran downstairs real quick to check out the carve, and I'm noticing on one word, which was the last word it was carving, 3 of the letters, the last word was memory. So the last 3 letters were messed up. And I'm going like, what happened? It almost seemed like the router got loose, because it was a real thin font, but now the O-R and actually the Y wasn't even there. It was gone. It didn't even carve it. So the O and the R was very fat and not deep. So I'm going like, what's going on? So I look at the bit. It actually snapped the insert in half. What I'm guessing is, and I found out later on, that the screw that holds that insert actually backed out just a hair to let the bit literally sit there and wobble. And I'm guessing as it's spinning, and it's hitting the grain of the wood because it was through ash, it just destroyed and snapped it off in half. Actually, I found I found the one piece that flew off. So I have it sitting downstairs. So luckily it did it on the very last minute and didn't do it, an hour in, because that would have been horrible. But yeah, so that was my very first quote unquote catastrophic failure on the CNC. And I got a new insert coming my way. I actually reached out to Tools today because I just wanted to know, did I do something wrong? Was I running it too fast? And I actually slowed the CNC down because I did a police badge, as in ash, and it chipped out in a lot of spots because I ran it too fast with a V-bit. So I slowed this one down. I wanted to take its time, and I wanted to know, did I screw something up? And they came back and said, did you check the screw? I checked it before I put it in. It was tight, but I'm guessing just from the vibration, it loosened up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little bit of the removable Loctite, the blue one, and put just a dab on it just as a security, because I haven't had that screw loosen up on me before, which was odd. So that's going on with the CNC. I actually have a couple more projects that I got to deal with on that as well. The 3D printer, I was printing some stuff. The Flux Delta the Flux Delta. It's working great. The only complaint I have is it doesn't have a heated bed. So the prints kind of pull up a little bit. And since I'm running at 100 millimeters a second now, I think it doesn't give it enough time to cool, to harden. So it wants to start to pull up a little bit. So some prints are getting a little funky, but I'm doing a couple different things for the French cleat wall.
If you wanted to fix that, depending what program you use, you can go in and change it so the first couple layers are done and cooled at certain times, and the rest of the print is done at certain other speeds.
That this the program does have that built into it as well, but I haven't really screwed around with the settings too much. I did slow down the first layer, so I slowed that down to about, I think, 60 millimeters a second. And then everything else is at 100. So I think I got because I really wanted to push the machine as fast as it could go, because I wanted these 40-hour prints to get done in 6 hours. So I could get it done and over with. So I got to toy around with it a little bit more. But in the 3D printing world, I was talking about how I would like Santa to bring me a Prusa i3 MK3S, and but I got a message from Vincent over at Vincent Ferrari, handmade by Vincent Ferrari, and he messaged me, told me he had a deal that I couldn't refuse, and so I'm going like, I don't know what he's got. So he tells me that he has a Prusa i3 MK3. It's the older model, not the S, but there's not much of a difference, and they do sell an upgrade kit to make your MK3 to an MK3S. So I didn't pass up that deal because it was a great deal. And now I have two 3D printers. I have the Flux Delta and a Prusa sitting in my shop. The Prusa I have not started up yet. I want to go through it, make sure that the bed's level. I want to go through it like I just built it, just to make sure everything's right. He told me that he had two of them. He used them. This one only has 2 hours of print time on it, so it's practically brand new. He built it. He used it for a couple hours, and then didn't need it after that. So it worked out for both of us. I got a printer. He got some cash, and we're both happy. It worked out real well. I'm excited to get it started, but I'm also toning myself down and going, just give it time, because you don't want to screw it up, and then you have a big paperweight, and that's all. So with that, some guy, when he came over my house, who messaged me on Craigslist, I think it was, and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in your area. Can I see your shop? I'm a really big fan."
Watch out for those people. They're kind of crazy.
Yeah, they are. They definitely are. He came into my shop and was just like oohing and on over everything, and I didn't even really know the guy too well. surprisingly, his name was Josh. I don't know.
Wait, his name was Josh too?
Yeah. But he did give me a great idea. So I was like, okay, you're cool. So so when you came over, you saw that that walnut butcher block top that I had that I picked up from some guy who couldn't use it. He cut it to a size that he thought was okay and found out later on that it wasn't good. Never installed, never used, never cut on, nothing. And I didn't know what to do with it. And you came over and said, why don't you do some cutting boards out of it? So I put my track saw down the other night and made some cutting boards. And I don't know, did I tell you? No, I didn't. I vented to Kim about this. No side was square on that. Nothing.
Oh, you did? You did tell me. You told me in a video. Okay. You're like, would you believe that this guy he didn't know how to cut a straight line?
I had to square up all of it because I had two pieces of it. The very first one I assumed, because why else would it not be square? I assumed that it was square, so I put down, marks. I marked it. I'm transferring it, and I'm going, nothing looks right. And luckily, I caught it before I was too far deep, and I made it right. They're 16 wide by 12 deep cutting boards. They're 1.5 inches thick. And on one of them so far, I put chamfered hand grabs on it. I actually cut the very edge off of it. Not the edge, the corner. I cut it off at a 45 and like just a tiny bit, maybe like an 1/8 inch off, just to give it a little bit of a different characteristic. And then I rounded over the top edge and I'll put a juice groove in it as well. I'll do that on a CNC. After that, I'm also offering engraving. So if they wanted like a family last name or, Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever they wanted, I can do that as well. And I was going to make a jig to do the juice groove. And I went, let me just do the CNC. I got the damn thing. Why not just use that?
That's your employee. Make it work.
Yeah.
Man.
Except this time I'm going to do a few cuts and not just one with the juice groove. Because I don't know if you remember when I did that checkerboard, I ran one pass and it was quite deep. I thought that CNC was just going to self-explode. Like, I thought everything. The board was going to blow up. The CNC was just going to go flying through the roof. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I'm going to do a couple shallow passes so it'll get that juice groove around it. And then it'll be perfect. I won't have to deal with a jig. Maybe I rotated the router wrong. I've seen a few videos like that. Mm-hmm. Somebody goes around and doesn't twist their router the way it's supposed to go, and now it's a different depth from their jig, and now their juice groove is a little off. So I figured throw it on the CNC. Got my first bottle openers. I am officially a woodworker. I got my bottle openers done. I've never made them. I see everyone else making them, and they always look really, really cool. I did the magnets, the same exact magnets as you have, and once again, I don't have Forstner bits. I do, but they're Harbor Freight brand, and you have to sharpen them prior to you using them, so it's not that good. And they only go up to 1 inch.
Now, yes. I do have a question about that. When I saw yours, your magnet doesn't seem to be in that far. How far did you put it in?
Did I make I might not have made another story about that. What I did was, those magnets are 3 millimeters thick. So I translated, because I don't know millimeters. So I translated that into inches, and it was like 0.11 or 0.12. So I did that on the CNC, and my failed moment came about when I put the magnet in, held it up, put something light, and dropped it like a bottle cap, and it didn't stick. I even put it on the magnet area, and it still didn't stick. So I'm going, well, I guess it was too thick. The wood's too thick. It's not penetrating enough. So I actually ran that file again on the CNC, and now I have 2 magnets, one on top of each other. And it's strong. It's real strong now. I can pick up like pliers with it.
I made mine really, really, really deep, and then on top of that put 2 magnets, one side to side. And I sent you a video, and I was picking up pliers with it. You can I threw a screw at it and it stuck. The first one didn't, of course, but the second one I threw at it stuck just fine. So, yeah, they're little fun projects. If you haven't never done one, go ahead and just make them. Like, the magnets aren't that expensive. The bottle openers are really not that expensive. And they're fun. I mean, like, the only thing left I have to do with mine is just doing it is put the keyhole in it and then finish it. And that's my next question. What did you end up finishing yours with? I know you were going down one way, then we talked, and you were saying something different. So what'd you finally settle on?
Well, because, I didn't know if somebody was going to buy these to put outside. I didn't know if they wanted them just solely inside. Maybe they're in a garage. And I wanted to do something that was going to protect it from the elements and moisture, use and whatnot. So I went down the road of Total Boat Halcyon. I had it sitting there for a couple flags that I was making for the outdoors. So I figured I have it. The brush is already wet. Let me just put it on. And let me tell you, that is a really, really nice clear coat. I mean, it's a varnish, but I mean okay. I made this desk that I'm sitting at. It's nothing fancy, but I used in the very, very, very beginning, I used a polyacrylic with a foam brush. Never used this stuff before. My father was trying to help me, and I used a foam brush. I still have lines in this because I didn't know what I was doing. And, the polyacrylic doesn't self-level it itself. How many times am I going to say self? But the Total Boat does. You put it on, you could put it thick. It could have high spots. It could have low spots. It will self-level. And I did not have to hit that. I had to hit one bottle opener with the brown paper bag method only. Only one. I put on 3 coats on the front and 3 coats on the back, and only one of them had to get the brown paper bag once.
That's a lot of coats. I would expect that just one coat would have done it.
Nope. I'm overkill, bro.
You're going to throw them in a pool. You might as well put floaties on.
Hey, if it's outdoors and you need to, and your bro is sitting I don't know why I'm saying bro. This isn't me. Yo, bro. What's up, bro?
Dude, come on.
This is me tired, extremely, extremely tired. But anyway, what happens if your buddy is in the pool and he says, "Hey, I need to open this bottle and I'm not getting out." You throw him the bottle opener.
You cannot backtrack now.
Yes, no, I'm backtracking.
When you talk about the buddy, he needs to be bro.
So I was telling my bro, he was in the pool. There it is. And he said, "Hey, yo." No, he actually didn't say hey. He said, "Hey, yo, throw me that bottle opener over here because I need a cold one and I'm not getting out of this nice cold pool." And so I threw him the bottle opener and it smacked him in the head. And then he used it and it got all wet. But man, good thing I was using that Total Boat because it didn't absorb any of that water. And then I put it back on the wall.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I was looking for.
And then I had a cup of coffee. What do you want? You want me to keep going?
It's up to you, my friend.
So anyway, last thing. As everybody knows, I'm doing the Makers Never Forget Challenge again this year. I'm doing 3 flags. 2 of them are stained. I was painting some stars, but some guy rudely interrupted me tonight because he said we have to record the podcast. And
ladies and gentlemen, This is the same person that texted me and go, "We do a podcast. It was originally 9. We do it now at 8." He's like, "I need 7:30." I'm like, "Dude, I can't do 7:30.
I didn't say need. I said, "Do you want to?"
Yeah.
Josh is putting words in my mouth.
I literally run through all the stuff I need to get done so I can get in and do the podcast. It's like 7:45. And I sit down, I'm like, "Hey, man, you ready?" He's like, "Yeah, 2 seconds." And when he said 2 seconds, it wasn't 2 seconds. It was like 4 minutes. I just want to put that out there.
Anyway, Makers Never Forget flags. They're coming along really, really well. I got a ton of orders for flags. I mean, people are coming out of the woodworks and asking for flags. Big ones, small ones, medium ones, every size you can think of. They're coming. I mean, I've been getting a lot of messages, asking about the flags, what sizes, all this. And I'm blessed that that more work is coming my way. But man, I'm swamped in that shop between the cutting boards, the bottle openers, the CNC stuff, the 3D printer. And my job, it's a lot because I went back. I was off for 2 weeks for a staycation honeymoon, and that was really, really nice. And now I'm back at work, and I don't want to.
How was that Monday?
It was fine. Fine.
Everything
we
is
can
fine
move.
here.
We can move on now, sir. So anyway, that's enough of us ranting.
Okay, Elmo,
We're keeping that in. So for 40 minutes, we entertained you, fellow listeners, with our what's in our shop. Anyway, so we got some questions sent in, and one of them is from Trails Custom Woodworks, and Josh is going to cue that up right now. Go ahead, buddy.
Here you are, Trails Custom Woodworks.
Hi guys, it's Trails Custom Woodworks with another weekly question. This week my question is on branding your work. How do you guys brand your work? I currently don't have a branding iron, but it was the first thing I put on my Christmas list when my mom asked me what I wanted. Do you charge your customers for branding when you brand your work, or how do you add that to your price? Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this question, and thank you.
So branding, let's see. When I first started out, I had no branding iron or anything else. I didn't even sign my work, really. And then I started, the whole Instagram experience and saw people branding. So I went ahead and got myself a 2x2 branding iron. And I continue to use that, mostly for larger builds and stuff like that. But if I can use my laser engraver, that's what I usually use now. It's a much cleaner, and I can control it. I can make it smaller, bigger, whatever. It's utilization of equipment. For me, branding, sometimes it turns out really nice. Like, no doubt that it's awesome. But there's other times where it's like brand half of it. So I'm now trying to line up a red hot branding iron, trying to get it do it again. It really depends on what you want, man. Going to get a laser engraver of some sort, I would just, put that money toward that. But a branding iron ain't that expensive, depending what size you get. I would definitely go ahead and get one. There are different methods of heating up the iron itself. A lot of people use torque, but you could also put it on a hot plate. That's been shared around Instagram a couple times. I find the torch is the best way and the fastest way for me. Signing your work is definitely a point of pride. And the sooner you can go get that and, start signing it, that way people know. Even if it ain't your customer, sees your logo and goes, wow, that's handcrafted. North Country Woodworking did that. Now, I will say with most of my furniture, I do put it in a place that's not like on top of the table. It's underneath or whatnot. But my hopes is when they move or when the, piece gets, cleaned or whatever, they see it and they're like, oh yeah, that's right. And they'll reach out for some more furniture. Yeah. That's my take on my branding. I mean, like, brand everything, brand it often. Charging people, I don't charge to brand my symbol on there. I have thought about charging people if they say they don't want my brand on there. Yeah. Not something crazy, but, just a little bit to be like, okay, well, I want to sign my work. You're not letting me, here's a little fee for that. I haven't done it yet, but it's definitely been something discussed here at North Country Woodwork.
That was one thing I never asked the gentleman that I made the very first the cutting board, which was the walnut and Paduke. I never asked him if I could brand it, and I just branded it. I didn't brand it anywhere that he'd see. It was definitely on the bottom. It wasn't a reversible cutting board, so it would never have been seen. But branding is a big thing. When I first started out, I knew I wanted, because I love wolves. And I have some wolf tattoos, and, wolves are a big thing for me. And I knew I wanted a wolf as my symbol. So I went on Amazon. Of course, I didn't want to spend the money that was from budget branding or budget branding irons, but I knew they'd be really good down the road. So I went on Amazon, found a wolf, a steel cutout. They must have, laser cut it out on this little tiny steel rod. And let me tell you, when you're trying to heat that up and trying not to burn your hand, it's not the greatest thing. But, it worked out for what I needed it for. Let me tell you, I forgot to brand a lot of stuff because it was so new to me. But it worked out because it was a wolf. Actually, my first coffee table that I made from Kim's parents, I actually put the wolf on top. And my father comes over and sees it. He's like, oh, the table looks nice. He goes, wow, look at that knot. It looks like a wolf. I swear to God. First thing he points out, he goes, "Wow, that really looks like a wolf." I'm like, "No. That's my brand." He's like, "Oh, I thought it was a knot in the wood." But after I got a logo, which we really won't talk about, but I still have that illegal logoed branding iron. Yes. But no, now I have, but I went right back to budget branding irons when I needed to redesign my logo, and they knocked it out of the park. I mean, it's great customer service they have, great quality. I did not get the electric one. I got the one that you heat up with the torch. And then I reached out to, actually I saw it on Jvwoodworx. He had somebody that made him some smaller branding irons, because I know you and I talked about it. Mm-hmm. Instead of doing the big logo, you want to do something smaller for smaller projects. And of course, I have a 2x2 as well. And I'm going, what happens if I make something small? I don't want to put this big logo on there, but I still want people to know who it is. So I messaged this one guy, and while I'm talking about this, I'm going to actually find it, because I believe it was Octi Fabrications. Yes, Octi Fabrications makes. He has a CNC, and he makes branding irons. So you send him your logo, and mine has the wolf and the trees, and then crafted an NJ underneath. Well, he took the wolf and the trees, made that one branding iron, and then another one with just crafted an NJ, and they're small. I'm curious to see what size bits he's using, because these things have to be microscopic for the details he put in. The trees actually have all their branches. I'm amazed. And these things are maybe an inch and a half wide. They're an inch. I think it's an inch round piece of brass. So now I got those for those small projects, and I've used them. And let me tell you, you don't have a small branding iron, right? Just the one.
No, just the one.
When you get a small one, if you do get a small one, remember, it takes a lot less heat to heat up than that 2x2 from Budget Branding Irons. And you will almost set your project on fire like I did.
You almost set it on fire?
I'm telling you, I heated this little branding iron. I'm holding the torch going like, it's probably not hot yet. Let me just hold it for like another minute. And I'm holding it there, and I'm going like, it doesn't really look like the other one does. So I'm like, just hold it there for like another 30 seconds. Well, I held it there for quite some time. And let me tell you, I did the water trick, and the water like instantly evaporated. I took this thing off. It was practically smoldering. And I'm going... After I got done, I had to brand 3 things with it. And by the third one, it was still... It was so hot. The second one, I put it down for a second, and it was branded. And it looked like I held it there for a good 10 seconds. I literally touched it to the wood, and it was branded. And let me tell you, they came out nice, though. Let me tell you, I had to do a lot of sanding on it, though.
I don't think I'll ever buy a smaller one, because like on your mallet and NPG Creations mallet, I use my laser to create that like 1/4 inch, of my logo. And it did such a great job that I don't think I'll ever actually go ahead and buy a branding iron for that purpose, because if it's small enough for me to put that kind of detail into it, then I can throw it right under the laser.
You have a laser that you're able to. My laser is on the Flux Delta 3D printer. And that's, I could do little medallions, which I still want to try, but I never dove into the laser on that. That'll be the next thing, because that's another way to brand your stuff. Let's say it's a piece. The first thing that comes to my mind is a blanket ladder. It's something that all the sides are kind of exposed, and you have nowhere to hide your logo, but you still want the people to know who made it. You can make a little medallion on balsa wood. If you had a laser, you could put the balsa wood. You can cut little circles out with your picture or your name, and then at least you can attach it to the piece. Branding necessarily doesn't have to be directly on the piece, especially if it's something that you're going to see. Mm-hmm. If you can hide it somewhere, like you said, on the bottom of a table, bottom of a chair, on my flags. They're all behind it. None of my brands are ever seen unless you take the flag off the wall, or it falls off the wall. One of the two. So anyway, there's multiple ways of doing it. I love my budget branding iron. Went to them twice. Each time they're amazing. The other ones from Octi Fabrications, they're great. He actually pre-taps it so you could put a 1/4-inch threaded rod in there. So I made my own little handle for it. And I have to say they work out great. It's a piece of brass with my logo in it, and it works out. So I can't complain with it.
Now, nothing to take away for the job that he did, but with our CNCs, it's soft metal. You can carve into soft metal, right? This is more of a question.
You're 100% correct, but the thing is, I have the CNC. I don't have the patience.
Okay.
And I also don't have the bits. My thinking is, yes, I have the CNC. I have the tools to do it, but I don't have the knowledge to do it. I've already seen his work, so I knew he had the knowledge. He has the tools, and he's already set up. So for somebody who's done it, he can knock it out in a couple of days. It might take me a long time to, get this set right, get it to carve right. And I kind of want to keep the CNC just for wood. A lot of people do, use it for metal, but I'm like, I don't want to risk it.
No, I agree totally where you're coming from, because I thought about too, you're reading the description, soft metals and whatnot. And I thought for a minute, I'm like, wow, I could do this and I could do that. I could do this. And I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it, because then, you have these shavings you're trying to get rid of, and it has different wear on the machine, and, it ties it up for probably longer, I would imagine. So, and then you need probably entirely different bits. It's just a whole new element that I don't know if I ever want to dive into. Now, kind of backtrack into your Delta. Now, I don't remember the power of the laser on that, but the medallions, you could definitely, you can cut out or have your CNC cut out like little circular things, throw them under there, put your logo on there, and just put some little twine on there and attach it to something.
Yep.
That I've actually done that in the past with items that didn't have my logo on it, because it was, like a gift, and I wanted to make it nice, or I forgot to put the logo on there. It was a quick way for me to grab it, throw it on there real quick. So when they received it, it also gave that a little bit of a handmade feeling to it as well.
Yep. I was thinking while we were talking, I know they make real small bits for the CNC. If I'm going to use balsa wood or something, real thin, I could probably have it cut the circle out. I could also have it engrave onto it, because I have a very fine tip engraver. And then I could just, take a small torch and burn it. So it'll kind of give it that effect that the laser would, except it would be all done on the CNC. And maybe I can get a sheet of like balsa or something thin and do multiple. And then at least I have, 10 of them in one clip, where on the Delta, I could probably only get away with maybe 5, maybe. So
yeah, and to cut it out, especially with the power laser you have, it would take like 30 passes for it to get through that balsa, believe it or not. So, yeah. I mean, I didn't think they would have a bit that would be small enough for the CNC to do that kind of fine detailing.
Well, I mean, in theory, you can get an 1/8-inch collet and then put, an 1/8-inch bit in it. I know, because actually I have one. I have an 1/8-inch. It's an 1/8-inch bit. I don't know what size the tip is, but I got it from Bits and Bits, and I was actually going to use it on the Dremel. Didn't realize, because I was too new to this, that it was actually meant for up and down cut. Like, it's supposed to be vertical. I was trying to use it on a Dremel, so like I would hold it on an angle, and it's not meant for that. So I wonder if I could actually just use that bit, but I'd have to get an 1/8-inch collet for that, Dewalt router. That would be the only thing. Unless they have a 1/4-inch bit that's tiny.
They actually did give me an 1/8-inch insert for mine. So I know that, I could definitely get a bit for it, but I'd be curious on like how to work with the balsa wood to make sure everything actually turned out good. Because you're talking about it's not really hardwood. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know how it would react to having a CNC, cut into it like that.
Well, only one way to find out is to give it a shot. I mean, who knows? That CNC might touch the balsa wood. Either A, it's going to blow up, or it's going to fly off the bed.
Well, that's going to be a fun experiment. Make sure you film it.
I'm going to try. It might be too fast. I'm going to have to do more research on that because I'm really curious now to see what kind of bits I could get from Tools Today for that purpose. Because it would be a nice aspect. I keep talking about it. I mean, you and I talk about the medallions quite often, and I keep wanting to do it.
I've made them. I haven't actually inlaid them into any of my projects yet. I've used them as little tags and actually put a little hole in them as well. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about using balsa wood to inlay. I think if I was going to do an inlay, I would use something a little bit like cherry or like probably walnut. I would, even if it was a walnut piece, I would inlay walnut.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, I definitely actually just talked to New Jersey Wood Forever asking if they had any more butternut in their inventory because I would like to get my hands on some. I really want to do a butternut and walnut board for myself. Maybe a stripe of cherry down the center or some kind of other color, but yeah. I definitely would like to do that for our house.
Our house in the middle of the street. Anyway, so we got a little bit of time left.
Yeah, we could definitely go into some other questions that were submitted.
You want to go into Larry?
The infamous Larry. Now, if you don't know the story behind Larry and his questions, you're going to have to go and listen to some prior episodes because I'm not going to dive into it. But anyway, so here are the questions from Larry. The first one is, what has been your biggest failure or blunder in woodworking, and what did you learn from it? Okay, AJ, you go.
Well, biggest failure. I don't know. That's a good one. I mean, I could talk about it's not really a huge failure, but all right. So that cutting board that I was talking about, I was trying to make an end grain cutting board that was supposed to be checkerboard pattern. And it was supposed to be, I forget, X amount of inches wide by X amount deep. Well, at first ever end grain cutting board, I made enough length, but I didn't make enough height. And I never calculated that in because, as you know, with an end grain cutting board, you have to cut it down. And every time you cut, that's an 1/8 inch off. And I never added any of that up. I added it one way. I didn't add it the second way. And I had to come up with a new fix for it. So then, I did a walnut border around it. I think it looks better with that. Even Kim was saying that it would break up that checkerboard pattern because that's a lot, Yeah. You got that dark walnut and then you have that brighter color Paduke. And it was just like so much and it hurt your eyes. So once you put that walnut border around it, it definitely eased the look of it, and it made it look nicer, in my own opinion. Just trying to think of what else I know I've had quite a few, but I don't know what my biggest one is. Maybe just all my warped stuff. I had a flag that warped really bad on me. I mean, like really, really, really bad.
That's one of your first ones, right?
It was my very first 4-foot wavy flag. And what happened was I was trying to use a template to cut the waves before I started hand carving them. And what I did was I did a 2x4 on edge, and I already ripped it down to the right width. And I took it to the bandsaw, cut it, but I cut it super thin so that the wood could move in any which way. I mean, this thing, the ends almost touched. It was that bad.
Oh, wow.
It was real bad. I had to throw that whole flag out. I mean, luckily, it was just some 2x4s. I didn't go any further than cutting it out, and that was it. But that flag I had to redo, and when I redid it, it was still cupping, but not as bad. And then the customer came and picked it up, and he noticed it because you could definitely notice something was off. He was still very, very happy with it. And I told him, look, if something happens to it, if it cracks and falls apart, I said, let me know. because I felt so bad that he did notice. I tried hiding it as best I could, but you live and learn on that. I try making my flags the best way I can. I use calls, but as you know, you could do as much prep work as you can, and that wood is still going to move.
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, like, you have really good times where you do all the prep work, you get everything together, the wood doesn't move with while you have it. And then you do all the prep work with maybe the same material from the same boards, and you come back, it's in a complete circle. So, yeah, that's definitely a blunder. I mean, like, it's something you learned a lot from, though, I feel.
Yeah, it definitely is. My flags are made different now. I still get cupping, but not as bad, and now I know how to remedy it. So it all works out in the end. It's definitely a lesson that I learned from. The cutting board was a lesson that I need to measure and do a lot of measuring and a lot of math before I even touch the wood. But yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, because you put me on the spot, those are the biggest blunders I could think of right at this very moment.
Oh boy. So with mine, I'm going to go ahead and say this. With every project, I have a moment of like, oh man, I just messed this up. It seems like I haven't had one project where it just goes smoothly, like I wanted to in my head. There's, I think, always a part in every project where you're like, oh man, I got to fix this somehow. But the one that stands out the most, and I think you might know which one this is. Any guesses?
Couch?
No, actually, no. I was going to go with the flag.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that one. Yeah, the
better call me on the couch
clamping.
shelf. As you can tell, there's been more than one. So, wood movement is probably our worst enemy. And when it comes down to it, you can try to avoid it, you can try to fix it, you can try to prep for it, but sometimes it ain't going to work. But sometimes it's your worst enemy. So I'm not going to talk too much about this because it's in a previous episode, but essentially I was doing a coin box with American flag on top. So the first thing I do is reach out to the person I know that makes the best flags around. And no, it's not you. No, it was definitely you. So I'm like, hey man, like I kind of get the gist of how to do this. I'm making this, blah, blah, blah. Now, it never occurred to me that I didn't need to do, the stripes as different. It never occurred to me that I could do one solid piece and then, stain the stripes and do everything in that way because of being a box and I needed a flat surface and just made more sense in that way. That's how I ended up doing it. So the first thing I did is I cut stripes out. I cut, the places for the coins. I glued it all together. I put so much tension on the the piece because I was so worried about it not being flat that I squeezed out some of the glue in some areas to the point where nothing glued together. And it still cupped on me. And, I ended up fixing it. I found a fix for it. But I didn't like the way it was turning out. And it wasn't the way I wanted the box to look. So I just ended up doing it a different way. And it came out great. So, I mean, I learned a lot during that time. That entire box actually gave me issues because I was trying different things I haven't really tried before. But I could knock one of those boxes out in probably less than a week now. Just based on like that. The top of the box, the original top, took me probably like a week and a half to complete. And it messed up. Now, when I went back and did it, it took me a day to finish that top. I went and I didn't have the CNC, so I used my laser engraver. I did the stars there. I did the places for the coins. And then I taped it off, stained it, let it dry, ripped off the tape, stained the other portion, and it turned out great. Like, if I would have thought it through just a little bit more, I would have saved myself a lot of time. But I would say I've had a lot of blunders and things while I've been doing the woodworking journey, but that is definitely one of my top because I learned so many lessons from it. I've had other ones that was like, well, that's wood movement. That's something that I couldn't really control. That's one of mine. Okay, second question. What is a common myth or misconception about woodworking that you try to educate others on?
That you don't need the biggest, bestest, fastest tools to do this. You can do it with, intermediate, entry-level tools and then work your way up from there. You don't need to start out with the most expensive stuff. We would love to. We would love to just blink and have everything, right at our fingertips. But entry-level tools work just as good. Will they give you 100% perfect every single time? No. But that also makes you learn as well. Then you can learn from those, what not to do later on. How about yourself?
I absolutely agree with you. And I'm kind of branching off from what you just said a little bit, but the biggest thing is you can make mistakes. And I've said this 1,000 times. It's okay to make mistakes. Ask questions, make mistakes, learn from them, move on. We're not afraid to admit our mistakes, especially on the show or, on our pages. AJ calls himself out constantly. I call myself out a little bit here and there. Because if I made all my mistakes known, that would be all my content. No, it's just one of those things. We're going to make mistakes. We're human. I mean, AJ and myself, we're learning. Like, it's something that we're constantly doing. We didn't walk into this entire thing knowing everything. We still ask questions. We still reach out. We still do all that. But to kind of circle back to what you said, recently I've been looking at my tools and I have a fondness for Bosch. The brand, the tools I have, they're great. But they're a little pricey. And my first set of tools, first drill set, was Dewalt. And I have quite a few of their products and whatnot too. And I've been holding off on getting any kind of other brand tools because I just don't want extra chargers and stuff like that in the shop. I mean, like, as is, I have Dewalt tools and I have the chargers and everything for it. But to buy a drill, you're talking about like, $150. You talk about a set, it might be 200, whatever. So I've been seriously considering going Milwaukee or maybe Ridgid to buy, some of these tools I want battery operated. They hold up well. I've heard great things about them. And, like Ridgid, they have that warranty. You can always just exchange them. I kind of want to know your thoughts on that. I mean, like, I have invested in, Dewalt a little bit, but not really enough in some of the handheld stuff. Like, only Dewalt router I have is on my CNC machine that's plugged in. The only battery operated tools I have is my impact drill and my drill. So it wouldn't be too far-fetched to, switch over to a different brand when it comes to my handheld tools, power tools. Mm-hmm. And I believe you're a Milwaukee fan. Is that correct?
Diehard Milwaukee.
Now, NPG brought over his Milwaukee impact drill, and he was helping me out with some of the projects in the shop. His is more compact than mine. Granted, mine's quite old. I mean, I'm talking like 2013, maybe 2012, around that time frame. And, obviously things have changed, but I mean, like, he was able to get his, his drill in places I couldn't just go.
I know that the newer, was it 12 volt or was it 18?
18, I believe.
Like a bigger square battery,
yeah, it's an 18 volt big battery, yeah.
Okay, so I know the one that I have, and it's odd. Usually an impact driver, you hear the impact going, and it's quite loud. The Milwaukee's newer one, which is the Surge, it's smaller and it's quieter. And you are right, it does fit into spots that others couldn't. I have the fuel version before the Surge at the shop, and it is larger, and then the Surge at the house. And man, I'm telling you, the newest Milwaukees that they came out with, they just blow the doors off everything it touches. I'm not I don't have all the tools, so I can't tell you, Bosch is better than Dewalt and this and that. I used to have, because of course at my job, I got everything Snap-on. When I was coming up, I had Snap-on cordless tools and whatnot. I switched over from all those cordless tools to Milwaukee, and I've never looked back. My father actually had probably the same kit maybe even older than yours when they came out with the very first impact driver. And those things were big and clunky, and, everything on them was just big. And, now looking back at it, it's amazing what they've come up to, now. And if I had to choose today, because I've held a DeWalt, a few guys at our shop has it, and I've held used the Milwaukees, I would go Milwaukee because of the feel of it. Maybe I'm biased because everything I have is Milwaukee. Now, Milwaukee has the fuel, and then they also have the newer upgraded ones. Like I said, the impact driver, they call the Surge. That one's it's quieter. It's a hydraulic impact mechanism. It's just not anvils like the older impacts. But if you do the regular Milwaukee fuels, it's a great kit. I love them. I have stuff that's non-fuel, and I have stuff that's fuel. Most of my stuff is fuel, even the 12-volt ones. And the longevity of them, because they're brushless motors, it doesn't wear down a battery as quick. The power that's behind it is amazing. Like I said, I will have Milwaukee till the day I die. My father, actually, I bought him Milwaukee because his DeWalts were finally kicking it. And I got him a set of Milwaukees, and he loves those things. Couldn't ask for more. And the new fuel Milwaukee drill that I have is small. Like, it's a drill. It's a hammer drill. Mm-hmm. You can do screwdriver, regular drilling. And I have to say the size comparison to the older fuel is amazing because it's a lightweight. It's nice for especially around the house. It's not big and bulky. It's really nice. You might want to look into it and come over to the dark side.
Well, now I'm actually looking into it. I'm seeing that for basically the same set. So the Dewalt 20-volt max cordless drill combo kit, 2 tools, is it's on sale right now. It's usually $200. It's on sale for $159. It comes with the charger, and I believe it looks like 2 batteries. Without clicking into it, I really don't know. But then the Milwaukee electric tool kit fuel 2-piece hammer drill and 1/4-inch impact, it's $185.
It's not bad.
It's a little bit cheaper when the DeWalt it's not on sale. I don't know. I like DeWalt. I have a DeWalt table saw. I have a DeWalt meter saw. Like I said, I have those 2 drills and impact driver, and they all work great. I have nothing against them whatsoever. I'm just looking to ease a little bit on my wallet because, if I stick to a brand, I like to stick to a brand. I have some Bosch stuff, but when I looked at the Bosch like handheld stuff, I wasn't really that impressed. I mean, they're pretty expensive as well. And it's like, I just want something that's going to work really well, with a good price point. And Milwaukee and Ridgid are the 2 that stuck in my mind. This also plays into a little bit a table saw. The Ridgid table saw that you have, I looked into it, and it's a nice saw. And it might be a nice, like, in between what I have now and to the saw stop that we all want to have in our, garages someday. And I thought, well, if I have a Ridgid table saw, maybe I should go with the Ridgid brand. I mean, SC Creates, his entire shop is Ridgid. I mean, like, he's orange, like, absolutely, like, he went orange and he stays orange. I don't think I've ever seen any other brand in there in his shop. He speaks highly of them all the time. I don't know. I really want faith in a brand, and I kind of have that with Dewalt, but I just want it nicer on my wallet. That's all I'm asking.
The real thing is, before we go too deep into this, Ridgid has come up because I remember a guy that I currently work with. He had the older Ridgids when they were first kind of maybe second generation, and they were good, but you could definitely tell they weren't up to the standard of a DeWalt or a Milwaukee. The newer Ridgids that are coming out, I mean, they're really, really good. I've heard a lot of good things about it. And yes, I've seen SC Creates as well. He's got tons of tools like that. And they are proving themselves to be a better brand, easier on your wallet. But here's the one thing that, as you were talking, if you have DeWalt's and they're working, what are some of the tools that you would like to get? Let's just say down the road, 6 months from now, what would you like to see in your shop? Because if you go, there's only one thing I want to buy, then maybe it's not worth, switching a whole platform. Now, if you said you wanted to get, a circular saw, a recip saw, and then a router, a sander, and you can go on and on and on, then it might be, okay, maybe the price point of buying those individual tools from DeWalt would be cheaper to buy just a new set, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. So right off the bat, I would like a cordless sander. I have the Dewalt ROS. It's corded and it works great. I would like to have the Mirka, but I don't think I'm going to be going down that road for a while. My sander works just fine, especially if I use the right sandpaper. I think I'm just going to stick with, that type of sander for now. If anything, maybe go to the Fez tool route and get, I think they have like a $200 ROS version. But even that's not, cordless. So it would be nice to have a cordless sander in the shop, because there's been moments where this definitely got in the way. And then a router, another palm router would be nice as well. Cordless, as I do not have a cordless router in the shop at the moment. And again, it would be nice to basically pick up, put a battery in, and go sometimes.
One thing I can say is the sander is a nice thing to have. I used the Milwaukee one once while you were talking. Even with my corded DeWalt, even though I have the Mirka, I don't mind breaking it out, even for something small, because I don't have to worry about the battery. I got power all the time. I can sand for as long as I want. I love the idea of cutting the cord, going completely cordless. A cordless sander, I'm trying to be devil's advocate on this one.
Yeah, please.
Cordless sander would be a, what do they call those kind of tools? Luxury tools. Could you live without it? Yeah. Could you live without the cordless trim router? Yes, but I will say no as well. So if you were going to go with it, I'd say put the sander on the back burner, focus on the trim router. So I'll give you now you want to go with trim router. Is there anything else that you would like to go with?
There's other stuff, but nothing that I would need or want so up front that I would buy a kit for. I do have the onesie twosies, and I don't necessarily care for the way Dewalt has set up their trim routers. I kind of like the way that Ridgid has, and obviously I've seen Milwaukee, and I really like the Bosch I have, but they're corded as well.
Yep.
But just to have, it doesn't need to be an expensive router, just something that I can grab and do some of the smaller stuff versus, the bigger stuff I've been doing here and there. It's something that will eventually happen. The price will be right in one of these brands, and I'll be like, okay. And I'll go ahead and grab whatever. But it's just something I was thinking about when we went through that question.
One thing you can do is, and I've bought multiple tools from this company, CPOMilwaukee.com. They also have reconned tools that they recondition. They back them with a warranty, and they are almost like new. And I actually have some in my shop right now. I got some landscaping stuff. I think the hedge trimmer. I think that was reconned. My father's actually got a reconned circular saw. And there was something else I bought from them. I have to say, when you get it, it looks brand new. And none of the tools that I've gotten from them have failed. So even if you didn't want to spend, the price that a brand new one is, but you wanted that tool, look on their site as well. If you were going to go the Milwaukee route, they actually also have CPO Tools.com. So I believe that they have reconned other brands. But you could even look on that, maybe even get, a brand new kit for, the drill and the driver with some batteries, and then look at bare tools and look at the reconned ones. I know that they usually run sales. They also run sales on their combo kits as well. For the drill and driver, you might get like a free battery or a free tool. Good site to even look at, cpomilwaukee.com.
Yeah, and for anyone that's actually looking at, getting a kit or not, don't let anything I say discourage you from going Dewalt or Bosch or anything like that. It's really a personal preference. I mean, obviously some tools are going to be a little bit better than some, but I have a good tool base. It's not like I'm starting from scratch, and I'm just looking to supplement what I already have. I'm not going to get rid of my drills. I'm not going to, be like, oh, I'm going all Ridgid. I don't mind having, different brands in the shop, especially if I can get a good deal and they're good tools. But with that, my friend, I think we should wrap this up. So if you guys have any questions or feedback, you could always DM myself at North Country Woodworking or AJ at Crafted in NJ on our Instagram accounts. Or you can actually just go ahead on the podcast page, Sawdust Nation Podcast, and go ahead and DM us there. Either way, we're going to get back to you, and hopefully you send us a question. If you do a voice clip, that's points on you, because then we get to air it. People get to hear your voice and hear what you think. Lastly, you can email us at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com, and you can actually include a voice clip in there as well. We've had people do that. It works fairly well. The last thing from me, okay, if you haven't already, please go on to Apple Podcasts and rate the podcast itself. The more people that rate us, the more we have in the standing, and the more the Sawdust Nation will get out there and be able to be enjoyed by the millions that are waiting to hear the Sawdust Nation word.
No, go ahead, because you took all my, this time I actually remembered the Apple thing. So,
but that's the contact stuff.
But contacts, final words would be like, hey, I don't know. I got nothing else. But anyway, final words, because I'm going to take this from Josh. Thank you for listening to the next episode, or the next edition of Sawdust Nation with myself, AJ from Crafted in NJ, and that guy I met on Craigslist, Josh, over at North Country Woodworking. This has been another great episode. We'd love to hear your feedback. Like Josh said, reach us on Instagram, email, telephone, pigeons. If you want to fly a plane over Josh's house and write a message in the sky, you're more than welcome to as well. So that's all I got, sir. So I think we're going to call this one, and I don't know how to do an out. I don't think I did an out this one. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show.
See ya. Sawdust Nation, out. See ya.
Come over here and help Grandma. You want to bake some cookies with Grandma?
Ho, 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 ho. See ya.